Earlier at the budget hearing, Commissioner Richardson opened us up with the invocation and the pledge, so we'll just let that carry over. But before we jump into the meeting, I wanted to take a moment to thank everybody during the hurricane that stepped up in this time of emergency. And I know I'm missing a lot of people, but some of the ones that really stepped up and showed leadership, I wanted to mention them tonight. Sheriff St. John at the EOC, under his command, ran very smooth. And the two ladies that were running it were Sharon Higgins and Kimberly Thomas. He had
Hinkson.
What'd I say?
Higgins.
Higgins. Sloppy handwriting. Hinkson. He had an officer out there, Wendell Fiegel, and Sergeant Larney, that stepped up and did a fantastic job, and multiple deputies and other staff members. Also, with the opening of the shelters, you had Superintendent Roush, the school board, and his staff, along with the bus garage, Chris Landrum and Mark Carver. They teamed up with Larry Sessions and Suwannee Valley Transit to get our residents that weren't able to get themselves to a shelter. And all of them stepped up to the plate in a way that was pretty remarkable in a short amount of time. So hats off to them. And when they had to take them somewhere, they were taking them to the schools. And at one time, the shelter was the Coliseum, but the health department and Kerry Waldron stepped up with the special needs shelter. And that's where a lot of the ones that Mr. Sessions and school were transporting. So hats off to him for what they did. Randy Harrison, the road department, I appreciate all the effort and that y'all put forth. Marcus Durham and Ernest Johns were at the EOC during the night of the storm, through the whole storm. And they were pretty instrumental in, as power was going out, getting generators back online. We had National Guard representation there, which was Sergeant Lizneby and Sergeant Diaz. They were responsible for operating the EMS Constellation and getting us equipment and supplies, MREs, ice, water, in record time. He's left now, but James Summers and his staff was remarkable. During the storm, we shut down transportation at 45 miles an hour when the winds hit that. They actually had somebody show up at a station having a stroke after we had shut it down, and they transported him anyway. On the way, while they were en route to the hospital, a large tree took out the front of the ambulance and the windshield. They were managed to get it off and still got the individual to the hospital. So hats off to them for what they did. Hats off to Suwannee Valley Electric. It could have been another 2 weeks and I'd have been happy with them. I was glad to get it on when it came on. But they had their work cut out for them, along with all the other linemen from across the country that showed up. The City of Live Oak officials, the commissioners, Town of Brantford, the Red Cross, there was just untold number of volunteers that showed up.
Absolutely, that's what's amazing.
And did their thing. And last but not least, Governor Scott and his staff and the different department heads, they stepped up at the beginning of this crisis, and why it impacted us pretty negatively for a week or so, the evacuation, it proved with the devastation in South Florida that he was on the right track. So I'm sure I left out a numerous amount of people that stepped up and helped out. Miss Donna and Miss Tanya at the Town of Brantford, the clerk and the assistant clerk, they worked their tail off passing out ice and water, along with several volunteers there. So I was amazed to watch multiple departments that sometimes don't get along, and not that they fight, but in-house bickering, come together and work together in a way that they did in such short notice to get us back to such a swift recovery. I think it was pretty remarkable how fast the roads were open and the power started coming back on. So I just hats off to everyone, and I want to thank everybody that did their part.
I have one comment.
Yes, sir.
I just want to echo some of what Ricky said, and I hope that the newspaper will record this as a feel-good comment to the whole county, that they need to thank, I'm personally thanking all the citizens that stepped up. I know that the morning right about daylight after the storm, citizens would turn out all over the county with chainsaws and heavy equipment and clearing roads. They understand the need to clear the roads to get the power people there. But there's countless people that nobody knew was doing anything, that was out there risking their lives and doing what it took, using their own resources and equipment, fuel, to get it done. And that's why the Suwannee Valley Electric, Florida Power, and Duke Energy had a chance to get our lights back on probably quicker than a lot of the different counties around us, because people really pitched in, and I really appreciate what everybody did, of the people that I saw. And I know I saw 9 people that I worked with that day. We had a little crew going, but I know it happened all over the county, and that's one of those things that we ought to, I'm just thanking everybody in the whole county for everything they did, because I don't think it could have gone much better for the county than it did, considering all the cooperation from citizens and the county government also.
Mr. Chairman, I would, since doing the comments, I was going to save it and wait for later, but we all dealt with the storm, and we dealt with it differently. But I would like to voice the sentiment of the power crew that came to this county, and there was a power crew that was up on the west side of the city of Live Oak. I think they're from Joplin, Missouri, and I don't know whether Sheriff St. John know the particulars of these individuals, but I would like for our chairman and me being the vice chair that we send a letter or some letters to these individuals that came and helped restore our power. I was without power for 4 days, and it was devastating. It was rough, and I think some of the other individuals probably was a little longer. But I don't want to forget our local staff, Mr. Harris and the road department. They did an extremely good job. I saw them out cutting, providing road space, out in inclement weather. You know, didn't know whether some of these power lines still had power. So they're next on the line, and I was proud of what we did during our emergency meeting in paying these workers extra money, because they were out working when some of us was home. I had to work, but they was out working while some of us was home in our comfort zone, and some was not in our comfort zone, but they still was out working.
I agree.
So I tip my hat to the road department and to the staff for a job well done.
Thanks, sir. All right, moving on to the first order of business, approval minutes from September 5th, September 7th, September 13th, and September 18th. Any changes or amendments to the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Richardson, second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have anything that needs to be pulled for discussion off consent?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I really don't want to pull it. I just want to make a comment that on agenda item number 9, we do have a clean copy of that agreement. There's some very minor changes that are a little bit different than the agreement in your packet, but one of those primarily has to do with the fact that CSX has to change the drawing, one of the exhibits in there. But otherwise, this agreement is ready to go. It has the significant substantive changes that Mr. Pravat has been working on for months.
All right, any questions from Mr. Harris? All right, if nothing else, I need a motion to approve 2 through 15.
Motion approved.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Session, second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Moving on to item 16, presentation by Suwannee County Chamber of Commerce, Director Jimmy Norris.
Time already up?
Yes.
You told me to have about 45 minutes here.
You were 3 minutes, a minute and a half.
3 minutes, you start the clock over there, all right. We do appreciate being here. As you see, we brought each of you a packet, and basically what we're doing here tonight is this is just kind of an informative session on some of the stuff that the Chamber has going. Commissioner Gamble and I spoke about it actually several weeks ago, but because of outlying circumstances, obviously, we had to move it to tonight. I have with me tonight President of the Chamber, Mr. Travis Henry, and we're going to just, touch on a few things that the Chamber's doing and share those with y'all and bring you in. Before we get started, I do want to thank each and every one of you, and as you mentioned, all of the folks that went above and beyond, and I know we saw several in our community out there doing the same thing. We appreciate that very much, and a special shout out to Commissioner Gamble. He asked me out on a date a while back, and I didn't realize it was a date until
And he accepted.
we got to the governor's mansion, and there were a lot of other people prettier than I being escorted by other gents, and I was wondering just how this was going down. But we had a wonderful evening, wonderful dinner, and I was quite impressed. We were able to speak with the governor a couple of times at different times and promote Suwannee County, and I know over the years, knowing Commissioner Gamble, sometimes he gets a little flustered up there with stuff, but if y'all could have saw how smooth he was when he sat up talking about the interstate system and the railroad and the river and everything else, y'all be very proud of the job he did on representing Suwannee County. So I do want to thank him for inviting us. At this point, I'm going to kind of let Travis get started with what we're going to promote.
All right, thank you. Again, thank you on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce for having us today. We're going to talk about a number of things over the next few minutes. Most of them, at some point, you'll see in our new Chamber Directory magazine that you have in front of you. But I think it would be remiss if I didn't really quickly talk about where some of these things that we feel as a Chamber Board have come from. And it really kind of all started when we made the decision that, in a sense, maybe we had somewhat of a short-term vision, and we needed to expand that vision and make sure that the decisions we were making as a board were ultimately going to have a positive impact on the business community and ultimately this county. And so we made a decision in April of last year to have a chamber retreat, which we had in Steinhatchee. And you'll also see pictures of that in there. And while those all look like fun, it was a lot of fun. Our families were invited. And I'm pretty proud of what we accomplished at that retreat for a couple of reasons. One, it gave us a chance to sit down and really talk for, we probably spent 4 or 5 hours together one morning, really looking at what the long-term vision of our chamber was and how we could make a real difference in the community. And so a lot of the things we'll talk about and Jimmy and I just actually sat down this morning, we're talking about this. It's amazing what happens when you actually sit down and create a vision or a plan, because we're only 5 months past some of those discussions, and I think we've accomplished close to 80 or 90% of some of the things that we discussed in those meetings. Most of them are here in front of you. So I really, before I let Jimmy kind of get going on some of the things that our chamber's accomplished or planning on doing, I wanted you to kind of have a sense of where that came from. We have a great board. Our board, obviously, we're all volunteers, and every one of them is very much on board on making a difference in this community and making some changes within the chamber to move our community forward. So I'm going to let Jimmy kind of go from here.
If you'll, like I say, the packet we kind of have preloaded, I noticed that all of y'all followed direction and have skipped and went straight to our directory. So that's okay. See how it works. The very first thing we want to mention, and quickly, these are just some leaflets and flyers to let you know what's going on. You'll see our new logo. That was something that came out of our retreat we're working on. It's a new logo. We've been trying to work on this for the last couple of years, but we really took an emphasis and decided to go there. So if you see it around, we just want you to know that we are the chamber now. Also, a program that we have coming up, some of you are very aware, we send out emails. Hopefully all of y'all are getting that. It's the Better Business Series. First Federal came to us in the Columbia County Chamber, and they wanted to promote a business series that would help targeted at small business. So it's a series of 3 luncheons. We're holding them kind of halfway between Lake City and Live Oak over at the West Side Community Center. They actually start tomorrow is the first one. So we have, I think, about 35 folks coming from Suwannee County that are attending, and I think Columbia County has about the same amount. First Federal has been very proactive in trying to do things to help us promote Suwannee County and its businesses. The next thing on my list is our new, which is not new, but it's a leadership program, which actually President Travis initiated a couple of years ago.
Yes, so we're pretty proud of this. One of the big takeaways that our board came away from that retreat was that we as a board had to do a better job providing value for our membership. And hey, I'm gonna talk about the elephant in the room. We didn't want to be the chamber to just ask for money all the time. It's one thing to ask for money, but we needed to provide some value. And the way we felt we could provide value, this was one of those items. And so we're pretty excited about this Leadership Suwannee. It's something we did for the first time 3 years ago and had some growing pains from it, but we really feel like we have a great program that's starting actually tomorrow with the series that's going to be over there in halfway between here and Lake City. And basically you have that also in front of you, some of the different things that we're going to be accomplishing. And we appreciate the support from the county as well. As you can see, there are a lot of your departments that are going to be participating in one way or another through tourism development, economic development, law enforcement, the last time, the extension office. I mean, there's multiple departments, I'm probably leaving some out, that are going to be a part of this. But ultimately, what our goal is with this whole program, in short, is that we hope that we can create better leaders for our community. And I think that starts at the ground up, and this is a start with that. And it's going to be everything from providing leadership classes. I can tell you, working for a Fortune 500 company, that our company pays a lot of money to do some of the same things that we're going to be providing for our members. And I think we're going to have a couple of you actually attending our class, so we appreciate that. But it's going to be a great program and something we're pretty excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. We're real excited that the university, through the luncheon series, the University of Florida, we were able to approach them, and this is actually the class that they teach at the university. So they will be teaching 3 of the classes. 2 of them will be an all-day class. And to summarize, the purpose was to provide a learning experience that integrates leadership development training into local community issues, providing an outlet for applied and experimental learning while delivering business solutions and services to identified areas of concern in our community. So that's coming from the University of Florida. It's going to be a really great class. Moving on, just want to give a couple of quick invitations to you guys. The Business of the Year dinner is October the 2nd. That's Monday, next Monday at 5:30. We will be honoring our small and large business of the year. We have a couple of upcoming ribbon cuttings. Travis Kuhn is moving over to the Work Nest. That's going to be October 12th at 5:30. And then Fresh Start Nutrition downtown, October the 23rd at 5:30. Also, Christmas on the Square is coming, and we're having our big community safety meeting, and many of you, the sheriff back here works with us on that extensively, and several other organizations. Any of you are invited to attend and voice any concerns or any way that you can help with that. Typically, we have 25 to 30 folks out of the community to show up, Parks and Rec, a lot of these guys. We couldn't pull that event off without it. That leads us into Christmas on the Square. That event will be Friday, December the 1st. As this year, it's a little different. We're not doing the Thursday night run that we have done in the past. We've worked with law enforcement, and there was some concerns about the area downtown and traffic. So what we're doing, you got the little kind of rack card in front of you, and what we're going to do is actually Friday we've partnered up with B&B or Busy Bee, and they came to us and they really wanted to help us with our Friday night event. So this year we're going to be putting 30 tons of snow down at Heritage Square. And we're going to have live music down there. We're going to have bounce houses, and we're going to take that whole square down there and turn it into a really good family-filled event on Friday evening, which then will lead us into, of course, the Saturday event that you're all kind of accustomed to. And we do have a few new things we're not going to tell you about for that yet. But that evening, the run and walk that we've always done will actually start in front of the parade. We are going to start those guys out about 15 minutes before the parade, since we're going to have all the roads blocked and everything corridored off. And then they're going to have these people cheering for them, just like all of the people weren't there for the parade. They were there to see them run or walk. So we figured that was the safest route, and kind of working with law enforcement, they felt that would work really well. We do have a little bit of announcement. I don't know if you want to share that with them for next year.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this in our initial safety brief or planning meeting we had, and some of you in this room were in that meeting. We've gotten to a point where we've basically outgrown that, and I think that it's Christmas on the Square, and I think that's a good thing. I think it shows that the direction of the chamber in that event are moving in a positive area, and I think it shows that this community is a great place to come visit. And so our plan is next year it will be a 2-day event. One of the things that we keep hearing from some of our vendors is that this is a great event. It's one of my favorite events to attend on a yearly basis. And some of these vendors attend events, as you can imagine, in all 50 states. They just wish it was longer. And so we basically maxed out. I mean, we really don't have much more room for our vendors. And so we've made a decision that next year this will be a 2-day event. I think that's a positive for our community. It's a positive for our businesses. And we were a little hesitant to do it. It's one of those things when you've been doing something a certain way for a long period of time. Me specifically, I didn't want to be the guinea pig to try something new, so I put it off on our president for next year, Brandon Fernald. But we did get positive feedback from that meeting, so we didn't feel like we were the only ones that felt that way. There were obviously others in the community that thought that it was something that would be a positive. So that's kind of the direction we're going, and I think that you're going to see great things from that event.
Yeah, and just so you know, that event, Dr. Jackson, we speak with him quite frequently, and we've kind of conservatively figured out that that's about $1 million impact on our community. So if we can spread that out and added people staying here a few more days and spending a few more dollars, yeah, heads and beds, that'd be great. So that's moving forward. Did want to mention something. You'll see, and this is actually coming from Small Business Development. Mark Yerrick, is housed in the chamber. He just wanted me to pass along this news, and I know Dr. Jackson's been spreading some of this news, but about the disaster assistant for residents, businesses, and residents in Florida, the loan program that's there. Not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it is available. And if you guys got any information, of course, please reach out to Mark over at the chamber. He can help you out with this. Any of this that goes through Small Business Development and Small Business Administration will eventually have to run through him in his office. So just any of your constituents that need some help to recover, let them know. Last thing, the thing that y'all are all cheating and went to first is our new directory. Just want to show you something. I'm going to give this to Travis. All right, this is what we did have for all you guys. We've had this for years. It's this little small book, and basically all it is just ads and a listing of our chamber members, which is important because when somebody comes in, we want to hand them all of our members, and we want them to look in this book when they need information. But
it was my pet peeve.
Yeah.
I got to interject here.
Yeah, it was.
When I came on the board 3 years ago, that right there was my pet peeve. I came to the board, I said, how many of you, when you want to look for Travis Henry or Edward Jones, go to the chamber directory to look it up? No one does. We go to Siri, right? Siri's where we go to look things up. Now, Siri, find me a plumber, whatever it may be. We don't go to the chamber directory. And so I said, either we got to get rid of this completely, or we got to provide some value to our membership, because this wasn't providing value. And as you'll see in front of you, this is what we have. And this just isn't great for our membership. This is great for the entire community. And I'll kind of let you. Jimmy and Karen, who I can't comment on how great a staff we have at our chamber, but basically we kind of gave them the vision and they put it to work, and this is what they came up with, and I'm very proud of the final impact.
Yeah, what we wanted to do is make this a community magazine / directory information guide. And so impact is the impact that the chamber's having in the community and our businesses in this community are having. I've tabbed some things. This came about because we wanted this to be something that would carry throughout the year. I know you've already flipped through it. You'll see there's some neat stories in here, Christmas on the Square, a lot of our events, ribbon cuttings, businesses. Shenandoah Dairy has a nice piece that's in this, obviously. and so does Busy Bee. There's one article in here, I want to thank Eric Musgrove. He contributed to this greatly with a lot of the stuff on the history and the museum. He was a dear friend to the chamber. There's an article in here that we kind of take some pride in. As you guys know, Keith was city councilman, and I don't know if you've got a chance to look at this article yet, but he even though maybe we don't always agree on a lot of things, he did care a lot about Live Oak and Suwannee County. And we kind of felt like that went overlooked in his passing last year. So there's a real nice article in here about him. Please take the time to read through that when you get a minute. Also, Dr. Jackson is in here, looking good as he always does. I want to be sure to point that out. And if you look, there's several pieces. The county commission's in here, the city is in here. There's also a really nice article on our father-daughter dance. This comes from a different point of view. We actually went a little in depth on what it means for a father to be involved in a daughter's life. So a lot of good reading, plus it still has all of the information in here that you need when you come to the community in Suwannee County. Don't want to take up a lot more of your time, but I just wanted to give you some updates on where we are and some of the things going on at the chamber. And again, we appreciate the chairman for inviting us over.
Thank you all for coming out. This magazine, we were at a TDC board meeting several weeks ago, and Mr. Jimmy gave me a copy of this, and I looked at it and I said, "You've got to come present this to the board." I encourage, if you get a chance, to pick one up and look through it. You'll be impressed.
There was a lot of hard work that went into it. We're very proud of it, and of course, we'll continue to improve on that process moving forward. So, and if anyone needs any, please let us know. We'll send them to you. Stop by the chamber at any time. We'd love for any of you guys to just family your business.
And if you're not a member, memberships are cheap, and they do give you a good little plug in here. Matter of fact, you want to
Yeah.
turn to certain, no.
Yeah,
Before they step away, I do want to say the chamber does an amazing job. I know Brandon's got he's got some big shoes to fill with Travis stepping down. We do appreciate everything you guys
Yeah,
do
this
for
guy's
this
got a lot of
community.
vision. Our board is great. We
Honestly.
have several board members sitting back here hiding right now.
Yeah.
Some of, if you look in this book, they're all there, so you can spot them out here.
Does Mr. Howell have anything he wants to say or add to this? No? Okay.
No, the rest of them work for y'all, so they said, don't call us up there.
Thank y'all, though.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We're moving on to Mr. Summers presented at a different date. He had a family emergency. Moving on to general business, item 18, incentive and request of land purchase for Project 51. Dr. Alvin Jackson, Economic Director, presenting.
Once again, it is another great evening in beautiful Suwannee County. This evening, we have a incentive request and a land purchase. We have Project 51, which is a fertilizer manufacturer. Their total capital investment will be about $2.7 million. Facility size about 18,000 square feet. They will create about 8 new positions, average wages about $50,000. They are proposing to be locate right adjacent to the catalyst site, which will be in close proximity to utilities. Pretty much they have this incentive secured them about 18 points. Those 18 points entitled them to about 4 years' worth of ad valorem tax and tangible property tax rebates. The total maximum possible incentive is $55,530. That rebate will consist of 7 annual installments of $7,932.86. Just a little overall economic impact to Suwannee County. The employment, as I indicated, 8 direct jobs, 2 indirect jobs, 1 induced, total of 11 jobs. Their sales output, about 5.6 million direct, $482,000 indirect, $171,000 induced, a total $6.2 million. Total compensation, $835,911. Direct, $96,425. Indirect, 52,956. Induced, total compensation, $585,292. And so that's the overall economic impact for this project. Also, this applicant has requested to purchase land that's owned by the county. They have requested to purchase 27.03 acres of county-owned land that's adjacent to the Catalyst site. That land is zoned Agricultural 1. The appraised amount of that land is about $85,000, about $33,144 an acre. The applicant in this, making this land purchase, a part of this purchase, they would like to request to do what we call a purchase exchange. The principal owns 21.82 acres right off of County Road Highway 51. He owns about 21.82 acres. So he's looking at doing an exchange of the properties, and which could be used for recreational purposes. And we have talked to the Parks and Recreation Director, who has indicated that the site and acres could be used as an addition to the park's inventory. And actually, they need park land in that area. So the 21.82 acres appraises at a value of about $68,000, about $3,116 per acre, and it's also zoned Ag 1. So my conclusion is that the property values are pretty equivalent. I'm recommending that we seriously consider the exchange. There is a difference of about 5.21 acres, and the principal has indicated that they will purchase the additional 5.21 acres, and that value is about $16,380. So I am recommending the incentive as well as the purchase exchange. Any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Jackson?
My question, I noticed it said that the job creation, 8 new positions. Are they looking to expand outside of those 8 new positions?
In the future?
Yes, sir.
Yes, actually, by them moving to the, in close proximity to the Catalyst site, they will actually be taking advantage of the rail once the spur. They will have a need to utilize the rail to move product to the South Florida, as well as utilizing the Klausner, some of the byproduct that Klausner has there. And as that expansion occurs, I'm sure that there will be opportunities for this operation to grow. Also, the principal has indicated that there are some additional talks with some other organic type operations that his business, as well as an additional business, could create some additional growth. So the growth that also may be indirect, additional trucking.
Good with that.
Any further questions? Ooh, did I miss your button? All right. What's the wishes of the board?
We could take them as
You-
two separate actions.
Two separate actions?
Thank you.
You have one that you prefer to come in front of the other?
I prefer to do the business incentive grant first.
Okay. All right, well, for the first motion, be approval of the business incentive grant.
Approve?
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming. Got a second by Commissioner Richardson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to the purchase and exchange. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Sessions, second by Commissioner Richardson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, thanks, sir. Do you have anything else, or was that it?
I have another item,
Okay.
number 19.
Discuss with possible board action lease agreement between the Cash Family Live Oak LLC and Suwannee County for Economic Development and Tourist Development Office Space. Dr. Alvin Jackson.
And we are bringing the lease agreement back to you for leasing the office space, and the attorney has actually worked this lease agreement out and with our potential landlord, and we are ready to move forward.
Any questions for Dr. Jackson?
I think one thing that needs to be clarified in there is that as part of what this proposal is the TDC will be funding $200 of the lease payment on a per-month basis.
That's correct.
Yeah, I have one question. I know in the original one, there was an increase per year. Did that get taken out?
No, sir, it didn't. What it got changed to is instead of having a percentage increase that would then, I'm going to call it compile, on top of each other as percentage on top of a percentage on top of a percentage. We agreed to a set amount each year to be able, for the increase.
Any further questions?
Yes, sir, I do.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Let me
Richardson.
clarify that early termination of this 5-year lease agreement requires 60-day notification, $1,000 payment. Is that correct for early termination of the
Yes,
lease?
sir. On our behalf, typically what we try to put into these contracts is, all of this is dependent upon whether or not the Economic Development Department actually exists during any fiscal year. As we move forward through the budget process each year, if something happened, and again, lawyers deal in possibilities, not probabilities, but if something happened that the department went away and the TDC no longer wished to have an office and wouldn't fund an office, that we needed to have an escape clause to be able to get out of the remainder of that. And what we negotiated was what basically is a 2-month period, payment of 2 months rental to be able to get out of the contract during any of the 5-year period.
The $1,000 provision goes both ways, though.
Yes, I
If
see
the
that.
owner terminates the lease early, they pay us $1,000. If we leave early, we notify them, and they expect $1,000 from us within 60 days of termination. And it is subject to the board approving the budget annually. That's the short version of what Mr. Pratt just said.
That's true.
All right.
Any further questions?
This is for, I'm looking for the payment, the lease payment per month.
It's $500.
$500.
Today,
Okay. Exhibit A, that's,
Yeah.
trying to figure out where I see the
It's
zeros.
the very last page on the Exhibit A.
last page, Exhibit A.
Okay. I didn't turn that page, excuse me. Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Richardson, second by Commissioner Fleming. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to item 20, additional agenda items. I believe we had two, discuss possible board action, award bid number 2017-09, and authorization of execution of contract and rail spur pending review and classification by the county attorney, grant administrator, Florida Department of Transportation, and Administrator Randy Harris. Turn it over to you, Mr. Harris.
Commissioners, this has been a long time coming. You have a copy that is cleaner than some previous copies of the, an agreement here. But the reality is, we went through the bid process, we're ready to award, and once the board does an approval, it has to be contingent on, you would think, nearly half the state signing off on it. So all of these parties, and quite frankly, these grant administrators have been calling us even before we opened the bids. They've been touching base with us about weekly. One reason for that is that we started trying to assemble the funding that we needed years ago. And you know the long story. Long story is it just took forever and a lot of different entities. So the bids came in lower than expected, but we're trying to satisfy the material specification requirements of CSX as well, and we can still do that within the funding that we have. There will still be something else that we'll need to do, and that's to procure the services of construction inspections, which was in here for authorization to go ahead and try to procure those. But I'm going to need the board to just go ahead and approve this, and we'll send it out to everyone tomorrow. And I have no idea how long it's going to take for them to approve everything. I will tell you that I don't have any intentions of acting on this until Flossner executes the agreement that you have had before you this evening. Mr. Gravatt and I have been working on that one for a long time, but it essentially obligates Flossner to pay to the county any amounts that the grant administrators would require of us if Flossner does not perform in accordance to the information that they had provided in the application that we made for CDBG. That's capital improvements and additional job creation at their facility. So if they come back to us for a refund of monies that they've given us, then we expect Flossner to pay those. And we will make that determination before taking the next step. But for now, we've got good numbers on our bids. Anderson Columbia was low bid.
Any questions?
Yes, sir. What's the difference between the, just for me, my own personal alternate bid and the base bid?
Material specifications.
Okay.
It's a difference in the steel and the type of track that's being used.
So are we likely to see the alternate bid being,
Our plan is to utilize the alternate bid number,
okay.
and that's what we're asking for approval of.
Approval of the alternate bid number.
That's correct.
Any further questions?
Make a motion. Said make a motion.
We got a motion to approve by Commissioner Hale. I'll have a second. Got a second by Commissioner Sessions. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That's been a long time in the coming. Glad we can finally getting that behind us.
Yes, sir. I'll be thrilled when it's finished.
Yes, sir.
We had another,
I know, I can't find what I did with it.
I'll be glad to introduce that one if you'd like, Mr.
I
Chairman.
know it's a change order.
Change order with Anderson Columbia for the extension of County Road 252.
Extension.
We had some funding left over. I'd like to try to make those travel lanes a little bit wider and use all of, well, most of the funding for that. So we got the estimates, we've got a change order prepared, and it will be funded by Department of Transportation. So I'm just asking for approval.
Yeah, this is the extension of the road. It goes from 51 by Taylor Store all the way back into Dallin Park. When we repaved it, well, I think we bid it out at the original width of the road, the width of the road. And that was one of those roads that had never had lines on it. And so we went to put the lines on it. It all of a sudden shrunk
Road shrunk,
We know
bad.
we know what you were going through.
yeah. Like 180.
Yes.
There was, what, about 360,000 left in that grant, and we was able to work out a change order with Anderson Columbia to extend it, I think, 18 inches on each side,
Right.
which I believe is a good thing. So ask for a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Sessions, second by Commissioner Richardson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. And I will ask you real quick, Mr. Harris, just so, the board may already know this, but I know me and Ms. Vickers and Mr. Pittman, I think you yourself have talked about it, that going forward on these grants, that we're going to start bidding them with
With an alternate.
with an alternate.
That's correct.
Because we've had a couple projects that have come in way under bid, and when we have the money, DOT is not letting us apply it towards other projects. And so if we can have an alternate in there where we can start bidding what we think we can get with an alternate, we can maybe go in and start improving some of these roads rather than just repaving them.
A little bit wider.
Wider, different things. So I believe that's going to be a benefit for us in the future. All right. This time, we'll call for public comments. Anybody wishing to speak, if they would come to the podium, state their name and address for the record.
Chairman, Commissioners, Catherine Ailing, County Extension Director, 1302 11th Street Southwest. Just wanted to say thank you to all of you who allowed employees to stay home during the storm. As you all experienced, many of them were without power, had a lot of limbs down, were dealing with other things, and I saw a difference in the morale of the people. I know that's not an easy decision and it costs money, but when they got back, they were definitely ready to work and help others. And so I just want to say on behalf of my staff and other folks that I've heard in the community that were dealing with those things. I know we housed a lot of people from other communities, so people had a lot of visitors. And again, just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Come on.
I just wanted to kind of give praise to everybody, just like you did, Chairman. I've been at the Sheriff's Office a long time, and this is the first time I've been in charge of the EOC in the Sheriff's Office. And even though we had a tragedy here, or not a tragedy, but a lot of damage and so forth, we didn't have any deaths or any injuries that I know of. And I just want to commend, my staff and just everyone that you had already previous mentioned. And I just, I think that it all worked out, that it all come out good, that and the biggest thing that no one got hurt and so forth. And I just want to thank all the commissioners for everything that y'all have done also to help us out. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Lawson?
Thank you. I am with the Small Business Administration's Office on Disaster Assistance. We have long-term recovery disaster assistance. We partner with FEMA. FEMA provides grant funding to individuals to meet their immediate needs, and the Small Business Administration does more long-term recovery efforts in the way of disaster loans. We help homeowners, renters, and businesses of all sizes, as well as nonprofits. And the thing that most people don't know is that we help the homeowner and the renter as well. Homeowners who may have lost their personal property as well as physical damages to their homes can apply for assistance. Businesses that had physical damages, or businesses that had economic injury, meaning they lost business due to the hurricane. So just a general statement to let you know that anyone can apply for assistance if you live in a county that was declared. Some counties that are outside of that declaration, that are adjacent to ones that have been declared, could apply for working capital. So we try to reach out to the chamber. We try to work with our partners, the Small Business Development Center, to let you know what's available. From the homeowner renter side, sometimes people will apply to FEMA and they'll get a recommendation to, a referral to the Small Business Administration. And sometimes the loan applications are denied. For those cases, for homeowners and renters, they can then go back to FEMA to get assistance with other needs, which would mean they would get additional grant funds. For instance, if they have a car, the car needed repair, they didn't have enough money to deal with those repairs. And if that's a critical, essential piece to get back to work and get back on your feet, they could be considered for other grant monies. So the SBA is there to help. We're not just for businesses, but in the time of disaster, we help homeowners and renters. Right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Would you state your name and address for the record and give a contact number for the public?
Okay. Well, my name is Sandra Lawson. I am with the Small Business Administration. We have a public affairs role where we do outreach to the community. The customer service number, which is the more critical number, is the 800-659-2955. 800-659-2955. The reason customer service is important is because you can apply for assistance in 3 ways. You can apply online, you can download an application and fill it out and mail it in, or you can go to a disaster recovery center or a business recovery center. As FEMA rolls out these centers, they'll be in more locations. And I've seen within this county, especially there in Branford, DSA has been on the ground registering people. And with the volume of disaster that we have in the country right now, logistically, FEMA's putting the disaster recovery centers strategically in the heaviest hit areas. So over time, they'll keep filtering into the communities. So if anybody needs help, it's available online right away, or the DSA teams that are in the local community.
What is the time frame? You know, I know it's going to deplete out. The time is going to go out, but do you know a time frame that this system will be in place here in Suwannee County?
Well, no, I do not, but typically what they'll do, they work with, FEMA's going to work with the state and with the county. They have to find suitable places. So we get briefs every night, and I like to email the sheriff and the chamber to let them know what's going on, but they have to find locations that are suitable to set up. And then when they set up, then they run big press releases, say we're here. And usually the town will know, and if there's a need, the people will come. The other side of that, if there's not a big need and people don't come, then they fold those resources and go on to the next place where they're needed, and that just makes sense. But the deadline for this disaster declaration for physical damages is November 9th. And that's not far off, actually. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, my name is Charlie Daniel. I'm the president of the Branford Town Council. And I just wanted to add my thanks to the whole county for this disaster that we had. The sheriff, yourself, we worked pretty close together a couple of days. Mr. Richardson was down with us, and Deanna, is that how you pronounce her name? I know she was there one day that I was there, so she may have been more days. But I just wanted to add our thanks from the southern end of the county to the north end of the county. And a lot of your faces are really familiar from other places, I think. Like library, maybe? No, wrong Hale? Okay.
Jail.
Sorry about that.
Maybe jail, I don't know.
The post office where I saw that. No, and I'd also like to add my thanks for your consideration of some additional funds for our recreation program. It really would come in good, and I thank you very much from the citizens. And we even include a few from Lafayette County and Gilchrist County. You can't count them, but they do play ball, and you can't tell a little 10-year-old kid he can't play ball. So, but thank you very much, and I appreciate you letting me speak.
I understand.
Betty Lawrence. Director of Libraries for Suwannee County. I just wanted to make a comment with regards to FEMA. The Branford Public Library, one of those places where people had the opportunity to come and either be helped in some way, form, or fashion. I spent a day there with them, and it was a steady stroll. And basically what they said was that as long as there was a need, that they would be there. And I watched people come in with certain needs. Some people didn't have food. Some people just had all kind of issues. But I really appreciate the way that staff handled it, because they were very appreciative, and I think that everyone left with some kind of resolution. So I just wanted to express that. Also want to echo my buddy, Catherine, with regards to your consideration and communication with staff during this time. It really helped. Mr. Harris and his staff was in constant communication with me also. I received information from the chair, but it really meant a lot to staff. I think you may not know that, but they were very impressed that you thought of them and didn't want them out on the roads while you were trying to clean up. But thank you so much for that. I think that you get from staff, they're well worth what you spent to allow us to be at home and take care of what needed to happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Ward, Jim Ward, 27476 29th Place. Thank you, Mr. Richardson, for bringing forth the proposal for the extra money for the Branford Complex. Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing it. Sometimes it seems like there's not enough coordination and agreement amongst things at that end of the county and this end, but thank you. I'd like to revisit number 18, if we may. I have a couple of questions for Dr. Jackson. Dr. Jackson, that $85,000 appraised value, is that appraised value, have an appraisal done, or is that a tax assessed value? Appraised value? Is that at the catalyst site?
It's adjacent to the catalyst.
Okay, well, that clears up a lot, because I would certainly hope that after all we've put into that catalyst site, that it would be worth more than agricultural value.
Same question I had.
But that's good to know. Thank you. Also, at what point, if any, will the citizenry have any input into the type of business that's coming in?
That already occurred. It occurred when the board adopted the changes in the LDRs.
For the use?
Classifications associated with the site. It's been a number of years ago now.
Okay. Well, I just certainly hope this is not some of the types of businesses that moved into other areas of the states that they have ended up having so much trouble with the biosolids and human waste, combining it with the food scraps and different stuff. It's made some really bad situations in Fort Meade, other Polk County areas, as well as other parts of the states. I know, Mr. Harris, you're probably very familiar with some of the types of facilities that have come in down there. And I sure hope that's not what it is. If it is, I hope y'all have better regulations over it than they did.
Yeah, no, that isn't what this is.
Okay. And that was my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comments? All right, moving on. You got anything, Mr. Harris, administrator comments
I've got a lot of things, Mr. Chairman.
that we care about here?
I hope that you care about hearing these things. You know, I'm thankful for every agency that's already been named. I'm going to tell you, this was the smoothest experience that I've had with a storm, preparation and recovery afterwards. And I certainly attribute a great deal of that to the sheriff. But I'm going to tell you that I know that the chairman stayed at the EOC, spent more time there than probably other chairmen have in the past. The net result of that was that it made for a lot of communication more expeditious maybe than in the past. The chairman contacted me many times, late at night or early in the morning, and said, "Can you get this done?" On other occasions, and you know we were without power. We were without power at our office. And although I did call the staff in to sweat with me because it's a lot more fun that way. But we were obtaining information as quickly as we could from the EOC. And that's typically what occurs after a storm. The EOC, all of those agencies that are in there with their phones, they're taking calls and then they're trying to dispatch those as quickly as they can. Ernie Johns typically handles most of that for us, getting it back to the road department. But what we did in advance of those calls coming in this year was I spoke to Mr. Johns early that morning, and then I spoke to the supervisors, and I said, take your equipment, go out, clear every paved road that there is. And then when we're finished with those, we'll start on unpaved roads. So this time we didn't wait to respond to calls. We just went out and did all of that we could, with the exception of those areas where, you know, trees had power lines wrapped around them. So that saved a great deal of time. Fire rescue was already busy even before the event, as deputies were, and the sheriff was, and the chairman was. But I'm going to tell you, there's one thing that we haven't really spoken to here, and some of you know this because you were there and experienced this. But for me, at least, I was nearly worn out before the hurricane got here. When the models started changing, we went from almost no rain impacts and, you know, looking at something going up the East Coast, to now all of a sudden it's shifting to the west and then starting to come right up through the state. And then the rain predictions changed. So everything was changing. So for 3 days prior to the event, there were a large number of us up all night watching the models. And it was pretty tough. I mean, starting the recovery when you're already wiped out. But, you know, the people at the road department, fire rescue, and other places did a fantastic job. And, you know, one thing I've got to say about them is they were out trying to take care of the needs of the whole community, while their families were sitting at home trying to struggle with the aftermath in their own homes. You know, they had their own problems with tree debris. They had their own problems with no power, no water, no anything. But these people worked really long hours and then went home often after dark and tried to figure out, how do I try to save everything in the freezer? How do I try to get water for my family now? And all of these other things. So I'm very thankful for the staff that showed up and went out there. And I'll say again, and I've said this before, you know, we'll hear little bits of grumbling and complaining throughout any given year from an employee. But when we have a storm event, it's time to clean up. There's not one employee grumbling and complaining. They get out there and they tackle it. They go hard at it and very aggressively. And I appreciate that a great deal. And I'm going to tell you as well, the one that we really didn't think was the Lord that showed up, and that's because so many were praying that our part of the state didn't turn into a parking lot. Because all of those predictions were pretty horrific. You know, if you looked at the wind speed and everything else that they were predicting, it was pretty bad. But I guarantee you there were a lot of people, including me, that were crying out to the Lord for mercy and for help and protection in the midst of the storm. And I'm very thankful that he showed up and he calmed the storm before it came through here, because it could have been a whole lot worse than it was. Amen. We've got a great deal to be thankful for. A couple other things I want to mention. We still have a lot of trees that are in the right-of-way. I've talked to supervisors, and quite frankly, we could be cleaning trees up out of the right-of-way for another 2 months. I mean, we've just got a lot of material that we have to move. We're doing it as rapidly as we can and as safe as we can, but do not be surprised if you're getting calls with people starting to get frustrated, thinking that we're leaving this stuff. The reality is, it's just going to take quite a bit of time to get that stuff cleaned up. One thing I want to mention to you that we are very hopeful for, and I want to say I appreciate Dr. Jackson working on this. It's been a couple months ago now, we had this really quick opportunity to apply for some additional funding from the state, some grant opportunities for, associated with economic development and job creation. Dr. Jackson walked in and said, "I need you to put some projects together right now." So I flipped the napkin over that my biscuit was sitting on, and I started creating projects. And we did that in about a day, like 5 projects, and estimated funding for those. One was the railroad crossing that needs to be relocated and the construction of 175th Road out at the Catalyst site. You've heard me say many times I have no funding. I'm waiting for funding. I've got to clear these other grants out before I can apply again, which would push that out a number of years. That was one of the projects that we created. The others were the sewer facility at I-75 and 136 and some others. But we got a call last week, I did. First I got a call from DOT one afternoon last week and said, "We need more details on your relocate of the railroad crossing and construction of this road at the Catalyst site." And I was just loaded up. I was trying to get ready to go to the Water Management District to ask them to approve our grant funding for the sewer treatment facility and other things. So it was the next morning before I could even get to it. And I had a call from DOT early the next morning and said, "Can you please get us additional detail?" I said, "Well, yes, I'll be at the office in a minute and I'll get it to you." I was surprised to hear from them that early in the morning. In fact, I've never heard from them at 6:30 in the morning before. But I ran on back to the office, and as it turns out, they had been contacted by someone in the Tallahassee office, DOT, that said, "We've got to have this, state's considering funding this project." So I scrambled back and I talked to Mr. Pittman about helping elaborate on numbers that I had created for the purposes of applying for that grant. I ran a Randy engineering estimate on the project, but I had to have a real engineering estimate. So we got that put together in just a few hours. And for the first time, actually got a response from CSX within the same day. We needed a number for relocating a railroad crossing. They actually were able to put one together for us. So my hope is that we hear, and I don't know when they're going to award the balance of those projects at the state level, but my hope is that we hear that that project has been awarded to us. It only makes sense if it occurs that we go ahead and try to expedite that right away with the construction of the rail spur. And depending on the nature of that agreement, if it happens, we may be able to piggyback on a contract that we have, save mobilization expenses and a lot of time and other things, and at least get the crossing moved and then bid out the road itself. So that's my hope right now. And I could go on and tell you the other hour's worth of stuff that I wanted to tell you, but I'm going to cut it short this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Except that, by gosh, if you want to talk about fire engines, I'll stay here all night. Now, we can do that. We can fix this problem.
We'll do that later.
We'll do that later?
Later.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to board members' requests and comments. I don't have any. I purposely had in mind at the beginning of the meeting while we had a full captive audience. But I'll start down here with Commissioner Hale.
Just again, I can't thank the county and the community and all of our first responders enough. Being out there in the EOC building during this ordeal for the first time, every one of y'all said it, and I don't want to repeat everything, but everyone worked together in harmony. It was amazing, and everyone came together, and I don't know how it could have been any better. And, just hats off to everyone that was involved, including our employees that worked days after and still working to this day, trying to get the road cleaned up. So thanks to everyone.
Thanks, sir.
Sessions?
I made all my comments earlier about the county.
Mr. Richardson?
I waited to make my comments till afterwards, since it was all at the beginning. I want to say, echo everyone's thanks to everyone who in the county worked under the leadership of Sheriff and EOC and Mr. Harris for his continual patience in dealing with me over the phone and via text and any way I could get a hold of him during that week. I want to say a special, as well as the county staff, the guys did a jam-up job. You know, this is a time when the community gets together, and the community comes together. We put aside all of our political differences, and we start talking about getting solutions and getting things done. And that's what happened this time. I've never been through a storm. This is my first one as a county commissioner, and if it's going to go this way every time, then I look forward to everyone that comes in. Because, again, it brings communities together. But I want to say a special thanks to Suwannee Valley Electric. Somewhere in that week, Mr. Harris got tired, I guess, of dealing with me and gave me the number and name of a man at Suwannee Valley Electric Co-op who handled all of those calls and work orders to get power back up. And bless his cotton-picking heart, every time when I called him, I never could get a hold of him, but every time I texted him, he would answer, and he was Johnny on the spot. And I just want to thank, I'm not going to call his name out, he knows who he is. So, but those guys over at Suwannee Valley Electric, they did a really good job, and considering it could have been a lot worse. Last thing I want to say is I'd look forward to Thursday night, 6 p.m. We have our town hall meeting at McAlpin Community Center. We invite you to come out. We will have a special guest with Kerry Waldron and Bill Jenkins from the Health Department talking about mosquito and mosquito control. And right now, we probably are in need quite a bit of it. So,
Sure are.
Mr. Chairman, how much time you gonna give me?
How much you want?
No. But I've said enough, but I just want to, again, thank the department heads for a job well done. I was sharing with Catherine, and she was talking about the morale of them employees on yesterday. That make it better, make your work relations better. But one thing I can say, and Mr. Harris said it, the main person that we didn't thank, we ought to be thankful for, was God. For how he spared us and how he kept us. You know, the devil meant it for bad, but God meant it for just for our good. And how he protected us and he kept us through these times. The thing that it brought out to me in my community is that the neighborly thing. We be in our air-conditioned homes, and we drive up and down the road, and we don't communicate. We don't communicate. But this storm brought out the good, that neighbors got to be more neighborly. In my travel back to the house and to work, I would see them sitting on the porch. And I would make a comment, say, why don't you go in the house where it's cool at? And it made us, and I shared it with my neighbors when we were without power. The crew was out there working, and when the power came on, and I told my neighbor, I said, you will get power before I get it. And she did get her power, and everybody had a cheering section. And I'm standing observing how we don't think a lot of times the possibility of things happening. But this storm brought about a change in America, especially Florida, and let us know that we are not prepared, we are not ready for this stuff, things that is these disasters that could just wipe us out. But through it all, we made it, and I'm thankful. And if you look, I shared with my coworker, I said 2 weeks ago we was in the midst of a storm. Trees, debris, a lot of it is still around. But we have our power, and we have our health, which is the most important thing. but sometimes we have a tendency to forget the possibility of things, of a major disaster. You know, we look over in Mexico, those earthquakes, and these people are dealing with issues and situations that just wipe us out, and it bothers you when you see it on TV. I was riding up a driver the other night, and lo and behold, he watched TV6 News. And he shared with me, he said, "You know, got to be a celebrity." I said, "Why you say that?" He said, "You know, I saw you on TV." And he lived in Thomasville, and he said he thought that was nice of a community coming together, trying to get things accomplished, of neighbors being neighborly, helping each other. So I don't want to forget that was an experience. As Commissioner Richardson said, that was his first one as a commissioner. This is my second time. And it was a tremendous experience of going through with that power for those days. And I got me a generator. I don't want to go back through that again. So we have to pray and ask God to give us the strength in these times. And I don't want to prolong the time, but I'm grateful that we didn't have no one that I knew in this area that had that, you know, loss of life or anything. And I can look out here and I can see my commissioners, county administrator, and the audience. So I would say that we are grateful and we are thankful. And thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's a little sermon.
It was a good one.
Thank you.
I can tell you what, after losing power, the one thing when it came back on that I was so thankful for was a hot shower. I never realized how, that was better than air conditioning. I don't have anything really other than, Ms. Charlie, you want to promote the parade Saturday or why you here?
Rodeo parade?
Yes, sir. Is the 29th?
It's this Friday.
This Friday.
Is it Friday or Saturday?
This Friday.
I'm at what, 3 o'clock? Thanks, sir. We ain't cut that check yet. Only other question I got, Mr. Bowe, I tried a different mic tonight. Does it make any difference?
All right.
Good deal. Thanks, sir. It reaches up here better than the other one did, and I wanted to try it out tonight. Other than that, I don't have anything else, fellas, so I just need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, got a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you all for coming out.